Greetings, fellow humans, and welcome to another Tea with JD. This is Earl Grey Tea, one of my favorites. Not my favorite, but one of my favorites. This is JD. This is Tea. Let's get on with this. I'd been asked if this t-shirt was of Samus Aran, and yes, it is of the Armored Maiden. One of my favorite characters, and barring the last entry in the Metroid franchise, one of my favorite female characters. I mentioned that for several reasons, but I'll talk about that in another video. This one is to talk about my favorite books of 2016. Here's the thing. Very rarely do I read books the year that they come out. I read what I want when I want. I have no method in terms of that. You know, I look at the stack of books and I say, I'm gonna read that. So a lot of these are really old, and I don't care. It was fun. And I actually do think I had a pretty good reading year. I got some great reads in, and if you have any comments on any of the reads, by all means, let me know. I'm gonna actually start off with books that I've actually reviewed recently. Sandman Overture by Neil Gaiman I did a full review on that. I'm gonna put the link down below. And that is such a beautiful graphic novel, really. The entire work of the Sandman is exceptional. And to take so long to do this overture, it's not a homage, it's not an homage or anything. It is bringing it full circle, taking that many years and doing something that amazing. Everyone involved in that project is top notch. I said it in the review, I repeat it. If you want to see some graphic novel mastery, by all means pick that one up. But read the rest of the Sandman first. If not, you're gonna be like, huh? Second, in no order of alphabetation or preference, I just wrote them down as they came to me. I saw the list and I was like, this one. So the next one is The Golden Compass, also known as Northern Lights in the UK, by Philip Pullman. The Dark Materials is something I'm gonna be probably finishing this year, because that first book is amazing. It's amazing that it's YA, but it's really deep YA. The learning curve, or what is needed from the reader, is a lot, and that's pretty cool, actually. It's not something that you can, I'm just gonna read a couple of pages. No, it's really engaging, and the whole concept behind the first book, because I haven't read the other two, about the nature of our demons, and how you can get segregated, and all the things that implies, and all the things that could mean, or how that could impact us. Truly, we have our animal selves or some other type of selves, and we should embrace all of us. I really think it's an exceptional work of literature, and I can't wait to read more. Third book I'm going to mention is Pleasures of the Damned. To have my first foray and venture into Bukowski be that book is a bit intense, because it is a hearty 500-page poetry book. It's poetry, so it's not densely populated on the page, but it is a dense and very, very intense experience. It did get me rolling on reading a lot more poetry, and it definitely got me high on Bukowski. Sometimes the old bugger could be vulgar, but he would do it to get a reaction. What I like about him is that he was always honest, even when he was being dishonest. It had that Tony Montana, I tell the truth even when I lie, that stuff. um, but it's very genuine and very intense. Sometimes it could be vulgar, but it was very often very poignant, and quite often you would finish a poem and you would go like, "Damn, I need a break," because it's intense. It's really intense poetry, and I think that the poems that close out that collection are just so beautiful. Sad, very sad, but very beautiful. Number four, Good Omens by Neil Pratchett, Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. To take the four horsemen of the apocalypse and bring them to modern times in this outlandish take on the end of the world. Ah, it is. It takes the best of Pratchett and Neil, and gives an amazing story. The conclusion, like, I think the conclusion reminds me of books by Terry Pratchett. The conclusions in books by Terry, at least the three that I've read, including Good Omens, it's not something like, wow, the ending. It sort of fades away. Um, when you're going through the book and the adventure, that's where the magic is. And trying to guess what Neil wrote and what Terry wrote, it could be fun, but it would distract you from the wickedly fun read that Good Omens is. It was something I've been meaning to read for so long. It was a Christmas gift, and it was a fantastic Christmas gift. The next book is actually The Little Prince. I read The Little Prince for the first time last year. It was a gift from a lovely friend that when they found out that I hadn't read The Little Prince, shock, disgust, and horror, they mailed me a copy. And it's something that I'm going to treasure, and I'm actually going to be reading The Little Prince in Spanish this year to compare. And I'll probably reread The Little Prince. It is something that I do think that I want to read every year. It is that type of book. It is very poignant, and in these times, I do think that a lot of people should read that book as a lesson in a better way to live. A lot of people are angry, I get that. A lot of people are frustrated, I get that. But within us is the choice for everything. So really, it's one of those books that I read and I was like, wow. Because in its simplicity, there is such depth, and I will probably not read anything that simple and that deep ever again. If there is anything, by all means, let me know in the comments, and I will gladly read it. To me, it's a very special book. Number six, a dark book. Actually, one of four indie reads that I did last year that I really enjoyed. The first one is Anatomy of a Darkened Heart by Christie Stratos. I've mentioned it in several videos, even in panels and different things. This is a really solid book. This is a book that impressed me a lot. I had expectations. I'm not going to say super lofty, but I'm going to say high, and they were exceeded. And that doesn't happen every day. Christie's a great human. She's a terrific writer, and I can't wait for part 2 of Lock and Key. The concept of Anatomy of a Darkened Heart is the first book in the Dark Victoriana collection. And the concept, I think, is fascinating. It's supposed to be, I'm pretty sure it's 5 novels set within the same time frame, but they're not interrelated. Yes, you're going to see characters that repeat. Yes, you're going to see people that appear in one book and in another book, but they're not sequential. They don't interlace. They take place in the same place, and I think that's a really fascinating concept. As it is a book that one could be amazed that you enjoy it so much because there's no one who is likable in the book. It is really a dark psychological book. has those classic feels of Hamlet and Shakespeare, and I strongly recommend it. And I'll probably, when I get my books from Puerto Rico, I'll probably do a video review on that book and other indie reads. So to recommend different books from people that are not in the New York bestsellers list, although they should be. Following that up, I also really enjoyed Strange Luck by Amie Irene Winters. It is a very fantastical world, the world of Strange Luck, and how you get to a place where there are lost memories. Just how to get there is fascinating. It is the plot takes place and it feels like it's out of time, and it is actually, I'm pretty sure it's set in current times. That one and the second book, which is The Nightmare Birds. It is very dreamlike, it is very interesting, and really a lot of great ideas. I think the best part of that book is the ideas that are there of how to get to that place. I don't want to spoil anything. That's the thing, because even the names of the places are really, really particular. And actually, Strange Luck is the name Strange Luck comes from a store of antiques where our protagonist works. And just, it's one of those places you would love to browse and just hang out for hours and talk to everyone who's involved with that place. It is really, 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 really fun. The Nightmare Birds I also enjoyed, but to me it's actually like a long story, so I can't say one or the other. So both Strange Luck and The Nightmare Birds are great. Nightmare Birds is a lot darker and a lot more ethereal. Strange Luck it leans more towards YA fantasy. The other one is very dark fantasy. Next up would be Daughter of Darkness by Katya Mills. It is one of the most unique books I've read, and I really do love that it was written by an indie author. I always have a little trepidation recommending the book because it is a weird book, not in a bad way, but it is something that it is so peculiar. That's why I like it. That's why it's one of my top 10 books from last year, because I read it and I was like, what the hell is this? And the way that she phrases things. The story is good, but her word usage, the language that she uses, how she dances with verbs, and how she constructs sentences, that's where I think her greatest asset is as a writer. It's really, really interesting how she goes about saying things, and I really, really like that. I actually do have the second book that I have to read, and it's not an obligation, it's that I really want to read it. But definitely something I recommend if you want something really different and offbeat. Number 9 would be Bright Needles by Anaïs Chartschenko. I told you that last year I read poetry. I had to take a sip as a tribute to Anaïs, who is also a heavy tea drinker. Anaïs is also an indie writer. She recently released her second poetry collection, but Bright Needles is a kick in the gut. It is so raw. Really intense poetry. I read a collection from a Nobel laureate, and then I read Anaïs's collection. The Nobel laureate's collection is good, but it is, I'm so well thought, and I just couldn't connect with it. And Anaïs, Bright Needles is a very direct punch to the gut. It is really intense, and I expected good writing, but that level of emotional fire and rawness, that really surprised me in the best possible way. So obviously, I'm gonna pick up the second collection, and that's another indie author that you can check out. I'm actually gonna be reading more indie authors and share them with you. Uh, I'll talk about that in another video because if not, this is gonna be too long. Finally, the last book on my top 10 list from last year is a collection called Best Love Poems. It was a beautiful gift from a great friend. And that in itself would make it a great gift. But the collection is superb. And it is perfect to have it hanging around for when you need a shot of poetry. That's why they gave me the book. And that's why I'm always going to cherish it and keep it nearby. It is not always spectacular because obviously it's a compilation. It's going to have, a bit of everyone. But the high points of that collection are really special and just goes to show that giving a book when you really mean it and you really think of someone is one of the best gifts that you can give. So that's my top 10. I hope you enjoyed. If you've read anything of this, please let me know. If you have any questions, I'll put the links to the reviews on Goodreads for each of the books below. If you like this, by all means, click like. Also subscribe. Also tell people there's a kooky Puerto Rican that's doing reviews and book tags and a lot of random stuff. So till next time, peace, love, and Mikey rolls.